A Ukrainian strike on Bryansk airport destroyed a Russian military Mi-8 helicopter and damaged a Mi-35, according to Astra citing its sources. The attack occurred during the night of June 5th to 6th. Reports indicate that Ukrainian drones targeted the territory of Briansk International Airport, located in the village of Oktyabrsko near Briansk. It is reported that the strike had completely destroyed a multi-purpose Mi-8 helicopter, causing the detonation of its ammunition. Additionally, a Mi-35 combat helicopter of the Russian Army was partially damaged. Furthermore, the airport's administrative building and the rescue service building were damaged. There is no information about casualties or injuries. Austin analysts from the Okogora Group have noted that based on low-quality satellite images taken at different times, two objects are clearly visible, constantly changing their positions within the airport territory. These were likely helicopters. It is unknown what the Russians might have been storing in the buildings on the territory of the civilian airport, which has been serving military functions since the beginning of the full-scale invasion. Given the strength of the explosions and secondary detonations captured by eyewitnesses, it is probable that the Russians set up an ammunition depot there. The detonation of this depot likely caused the destruction and damage to the Russian aircraft. It is possible that these helicopters were used by the invaders to transport ammunition to their units at the front line. Last night, Ukrainian strike drones hit an oil depot in Engels, the Saratov region, and attacked the Dyagalevo military airbase. The Russian Progress plant in Michirinsk, the Tambov region, which manufactures equipment for missile and aviation technology, was also targeted by drones. A fire broke out at this important facility following the explosion. In Belgorod, a drone struck a courthouse while Regional Governor Vyacheslav Gladkov was on site inspecting damage from a previous strike. A second UAV hit during his visit, causing visible shock. Reports indicate at least one person was injured. Satellite images show the aftermath of the strike on Kronstadt plant in the Moscow region. 8 impacts are visible. The facility was involved in developing combat drones. Clearer satellite imagery confirms significant damage to Russia's Kronstadt UAV production site, a key facility behind combat drones like the Orion. Ukrainian drones from the Shadow unit struck a Russian Buk surface-to-air missile system on the Eastern Front. Several Russian Buk surface-to-air missile systems have been destroyed during the war in Ukraine, dealing a blow to Russia's air defense capabilities. Ukrainian forces, using precision strikes from drones and Western-supplied weapons, have targeted these high-value assets to weaken enemy air cover and protect advancing troops. Each loss of a Buk system reduces Russia's ability to intercept aircraft and missiles, shifting the balance on the battlefield. Russia is increasingly using motorcycles for assault operations, particularly near Donetsk, reports Lieutenant Column Dmytro Zaporozhets, spokesperson for the Luhansk group of forces. In 2 recent attacks near Yablunivka, half of the personnel and vehicles were destroyed.
There have been 30 combat engagements with the enemy. The majority on the Donetsk direction, 89 on the Kramatorsk direction, and 3 on the Siversk direction. What has changed is that the enemy is becoming more active and increasingly conducting assault actions, using specifically motorcycles, especially in the Donetsk direction, because there are those settlements. In principle, about how they note in their doctrinal documents that small settlements will be attempted to be stormed specifically using motorcycles. This is already happening as of today, or in the past 24 hours, there were 2 assault actions in one of the directions towards the settlement Yablunivka. This involved the use of 3, then 5 motorcycles. Half of the personnel and motorcycles were destroyed. The rest, taking advantage of the fact that it was already evening, managed to escape on the motorcycles. Therefore, this already has a massive character along the entire line of engagement and in the Siversky direction and in the Kramatorsk direction.
The enemy uses this component, sometimes more actively, sometimes less actively.
The 3rd Operational Spartan Brigade reports eliminating Russian assault troops attempting rapid advances on electric scooters in the Pokrovsk sector. Russian forces used motorcycles to deliver supplies and electric scooters to infiltrate positions. UAV operators intercepted them in time. Personnel were neutralized and their transport destroyed. The Pokrovsk sector in Donetsk Oblast remains one of the most intense battlefronts in Ukraine. Russian forces have launched numerous assaults in this area, aiming to break through Ukrainian defenses. Ukrainian troops have been actively repelling these attacks, inflicting significant losses on the invading forces. Despite the challenges, Ukrainian defenders continue to hold their positions, demonstrating resilience and tactical proficiency. The situation remains fluid, with both sides engaged in heavy combat. In one of the largest coordinated air assaults since the full-scale invasion began, Russia launched a devastating overnight attack on Ukraine, firing 44 missiles and deploying 407 drones, including Iranian-made Shaheds, Kalibr cruise missiles, and ballistic weapons. The Ukrainian Air Force reports that preliminary defense efforts successfully intercepted up to 30 missiles and over 200 drones. However, the remaining projectiles caused significant damage across the country. Kyiv suffered some of the worst devastation. At least 4 people were killed and over 20 injured as missiles struck residential buildings and energy infrastructure. The capital's metro system was disrupted, and emergency services confirmed that 3 rescuers were killed and 9 others injured during response efforts. Strikes also hit Chernihiv, Poltava, Lutsk, Lviv, Khmelnytsky, and Ternopil, where a toxic air alert was issued due to damage at an industrial facility. Air Force spokesperson Yuri Ihnat stated that the exact number of intercepted drones and missiles is still being verified, but praised the performance of Ukraine's air defense systems under extreme pressure. This latest wave of attacks marks a sharp escalation in Russia's air campaign, targeting both civilian infrastructure and Ukraine's energy grid in what officials believe is an attempt to weaken public morale and disrupt daily life ahead of the summer counteroffensive operations. Some U.S. lawmakers do not understand the scale of Russia's rearmament campaign, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz said on Friday, a day after he held talks with U.S. President Donald Trump in the White House. I met with some senators on Capitol Hill and told them to please look at the rearmament Russia is doing, Merz told a business conference in Berlin. They clearly have no idea what is happening there right now, he said, without identifying the senators. Russia has shifted defense plants to round-the-clock production since the start of its full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022 and has signed arms deals with North Korea and Iran, prompting European officials to warn that Moscow could soon be in a position to attack NATO territory. Russia, which raised its 2025 defense budget to its highest level since the Cold War, denies any such intention and says it is waging a special military operation in Ukraine to protect its own security against what it casts as a hostile West. Merz, a conservative who took power in May, is the latest European leader to visit Trump, hoping to convince him of the need to back Ukraine against Russia's invasion and continue to help underpin Europe's security through the NATO alliance. Merz said he had been reassured by the words Trump had uttered during their public encounter in the Oval Office, especially the U.S. president's resounding no to a question on whether the United States had plans to withdraw from NATO. European countries have been boosting defense spending since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine triggered the continent's bloodiest conflict since World War II. Even before taking office, Merz rallied an ad hoc parliamentary majority to change Germany's constitution to exempt military spending from most borrowing rules, and he has since promised to spend a further 1.5% of gross domestic product on infrastructure with military dual use. Merz has backed Trump's demand for NATO members to commit to a target of more than doubling defense spending to 5% of GDP in the future. Trump welcomed that commitment on Thursday and told Merz that U.S. forces would remain in Germany. Whether we like it or not, Merz said on Friday, we will remain dependent on the United States for a long time to come. Last September, Russia said its defense budget would hit 13.5 trillion rubles in 2025, 25% more than it was in the previous year. meaning the military will soak up 32% of all public spending. The European Commission is considering adding Russia to its gray list of countries with inadequate money laundering controls. Key decision could have been announced as early as this week, but the European Commission postponed its approval at the last minute for administrative or procedural reasons. The document is expected to be updated early next week. The addition of a country onto the list entails reputational losses and additional checks by financial institutions when processing transactions related to the relevant jurisdiction. This increases costs and complicates international cooperation. Typically, the EU's grey list is based on the one compiled by the Financial Action Task Force, a global money laundering watchdog. Although Russia's membership in the FATF was suspended a year after its full-scale invasion of Ukraine, a number of countries are still blocking its inclusion on the FATF list itself. The previous version of the EU list, seen by the FT, included Algeria, Angola, Kenya, Côte d'Ivoire, Laos, Lebanon, Monaco, Namibia, Nepal, and Venezuela. The exclusions of Barbados, Gibraltar, Jamaica, Panama, Senegal, Uganda, and the UAE were also planned. However, the vote did not take place. The Social Democrats, Greens, and Liberals opposed the exclusion of the UAE, and the Spanish Conservatives opposed lifting oversight of Gibraltar. MEPs say that the inclusion of Russia on the list could help to pass the document as a whole. The European Parliament can only support or reject the list in its entirety without amendments. Meanwhile, the UAE authorities say that the issue of money laundering should not affect trade negotiations with the EU, which began in May. Brussels is under pressure as the UAE has an 18-month deadline to complete the negotiations. Spain, in turn, insists on keeping Gibraltar on the grey list to strengthen its position in negotiations with the UK over the territory's post-Brexit status. At the FATF's meeting on 21st to 25th October, they upheld their decision to suspend Russia's membership in the organization.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Also, if you want to support Warthog Defense, please become our member and get early access to new videos, exclusive members-only videos, and become administrator in comments section. The membership link is in the description.
Every day. We had a guy last week, it's 6 rescues in 6 days. You know, he's doing the job every day.